And it's about time your late ass showed up. What's going on, everybody? I am Winston A. Marshall, and this is my CPT review of Scott Pilgrim Vs. The World. So for those that aren't familiar with CPT reviews, if this is your first time seeing this, there's a litany of things that I should have seen by now that I haven't seen. Now, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is not one of those cases. In this particular case, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. However, I am doing a CPT review. I am rewatching this movie because, for those that don't know, Scott Pilgrim Takes Off just dropped, I want to say about a week ago, something like that. So I am doing my late review of Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. But before I do that, I wanted to dive into Scott Pilgrim vs. the World so that we can kind of compare and contrast some of the stuff that's going on. Mind you, I'm going to give you a little peek behind the curtain just based off of life and whatnot. I wanted to get to Scott Pilgrim Takes Off pretty quickly. So even though I'm releasing this one first, I didn't revisit the movie until after I finished the series. But I can say that there is a lot of really cool stuff, and I'll get it for the back half of the reviews. There's a lot of cool stuff that makes direct references to the movie. And it's really well done how much it really is an alternate story and a continuation of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. But let's talk about this movie, man. Let's talk about Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which, again, one of the greatest movies to come out in 2010. It's 13 years old now, which is crazy. And even though a lot of the actors in this movie were kind of already on their way, this feels like a major turning point, a major movie that opened up for a lot of huge Hollywood stars. So we're talking Michael Cera playing Scott Pilgrim, Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Ramona Flowers, Aubrey Plaza is Julie Powers, Kieran Culkin as Wallace Wells, Chris Evans as Lucas Lee, Brie Larson as Envy Adams, Jason Schwartzman as Gideon Gordon Graves, Ellen Wong as Knives Chow, Allison Pill as Kim Pine, Brandon Routh as Hod Ingram, Anna Kendrick as Stacy Pilgrim, Mae Whitman as Roxy Richter, and then the other thing that's so amazing about it is the incredible writer-director Edgar Wright, who essentially took this comic and turned it into this. It was just absolutely amazing. So, quick story of it, and this is going to be a spoiler review. This movie's been out for 13 years, so that's on you if you want to ruin it here. But the big thing that essentially happens, Scott Pilgrim has this girl in his dreams named Ramona that he keeps seeing. He finally meets her in real life, and he decides he wants to date her. In the process, he ends up having to fight her 7 evil exes who she dated previously in order to have the right to date her. As the story unfolds, we learn a lot about Scott, about Ramona, kind of how this happens, and specifically Gideon Graves, who is the big bad. And her most recent ex is the one that called up all of Ramona's previous exes to make this league of evil exes, and this whole premise of, in order to date her, you have to get through us. It's a crazy, like, kind of interesting twist on the idea of past relationships, how they affect you, the baggage that comes with them, etc. But I think the thing that mainly is addressed a lot throughout, there is a lot of discovering who you are, because a lot of people in here end up carbon copying each other, seem very lost. Like, for example, Scott starts off the movie dating this girl named Knives Chow. Scott is 22. Knives is 17. She's still in high school, and everybody's kind of clowning him for it because it's like, bro, why are you dating a high schooler? Like, what's wrong with you?
17 years old, scandal.
That's not true. Who told you?
Wallace, duh.
That gossipy bitch.
You know me.
Wallace!
When Scott breaks up with Knives and decides to go start dating Ramona, Knives has a complete just implosion and then starts ending up essentially imitating Ramona. Ramona always changes her hair color, so Knives puts a blue streak in her hair of dye in order to kind of get Scott's attention, since that's apparently the thing that he's into, is this fat ass, as she likes to put it, with the cool hair.
Oh, she's just a fat ass white girl, you know?
And she even goes as far as you see the character Young Neil, who he's not in the band, he just kind of hangs with them. He in of itself is kind of like a Scott replacement, since he doesn't even really know who he is. So like When Scott leaves the band, he becomes the new bassist. He's the one that Knives calls up to try and make Scott jealous and starts dating him. So he really just kind of is taking an impression of who Scott is to become who he is. You know what I mean? It's very interesting to see that. Throughout, it really is just about that identity and who people are, because like Scott dated Brie Larson's character, Envy Adams. Envy broke up with him once she signed a big record deal and she went off to go be with Todd. Now, if you watch Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, and I hope you do watch my reviews, I actually kind of touch about the relationship that Envy has with Todd a little bit more, because we get more information. We actually get more canon information throughout that as to where that was kind of coming from. But Envy used to be called Nat or Natalie, and nobody calls her that anymore because she's Envy Adams now, the envy of everybody's eye. Like that whole situation where she has become the full superstar and not the human anymore. So it's very interesting to like see that play out. And what I love specifically about this movie, obviously I'm a big nerd. I love me some damn anime and manga. I love comics. I love video games. Love video games. So you have that beautiful shell, that beautiful presentation for the movie through that lens. But specifically the thing that keeps getting addressed over and over again is to just treat people right. Treat people with respect. And also to love yourself. So it's funny when Scott gets to the final fight with Gideon, you know, he pulls out the power of love and he pulls out that sword and he's fighting for Ramona, but he ultimately gets defeated. And then once he uses his extra life that he earned throughout the movie and he comes back, he first throws respect to everybody. So he's just like, hey, Steven, I'm sorry I held the band back. You guys sound better. Hey, Neil, you're the man. Like, don't worry about trying to be anybody else but be yourself. And then looks at Kim, who the drummer who he previously dated and broke her heart in like middle school, high school, and being like, I'm really sorry. I handled that super, super poorly. And, you know, and then he was, you know, Gideon asked, you're trying to fight me for Ramona? He's like, no, I'm going to fight you for me, for myself.
You want to fight me? For her?
No. I want to fight you for me.
Scott earned the power of self-respect.
He has the power of self-respect, able to use that to kick some ass. But then, same thing. Everybody has to then come to terms with how they have treated people. So, like, Scott has to finally admit to Knives and to Ramona that he didn't break up with Knives until after he started getting with Ramona. Till after they had their little fling where they didn't have sex, but they were making out, and he did sleep in her bed and all this other stuff, right? And he screws it up the first time. That's why he ends up dying and having to use the extra life. But then he circles back around and he's very just honest about it. He's like, I was wrong to you and I broke your heart and I'm so, so sorry. And especially from the fact that like Scott had that same thing happen to him with Envy. So it's just an incredible coming of age tale. That I can't speak higher of just from how well done it is. It is so stylized, but the comedy is spot on.
Hey, I'm not done with.
Oh! Looks like you're seeing double. He's good, right? Sometimes I let him do the wide shots when I feel like getting blazed back in my Winnie.
Again, one of the top movies that this was around the time when Michael Cera was just like on a tear. 2007, he did Superbad. Then he did Juno. Those both came out the same year, which went huge for him. He was in Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist in 2008, which was a big deal. You know, he had This Is the End, his role in This Is the End back then in 2013. Like, this was the moment where he kind of just like really blew up. And the funny thing is, he had been working for a while. He had been working since 99. And obviously the Arrested Development has been on again, off again for a minute. But this really was the jumping off point for him. And again, like I said, it wasn't just him. It was everybody in this cast. And you got to give none other than Edgar Wright all the credit in the world, man, because he really has an eye for comedy. You know, he obviously did the Cornetto trilogy. You know, you're talking about Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End. Homie makes some good ass movies. He's definitely within my top 10 favorite directors by far, and I can't speak any higher of those films that I mentioned and the many more that he's done. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So I want to know what you think. How do you feel about Scott Pilgrim versus the World? Again, we're talking a 13-year-old movie, but a classic that you have to see. You absolutely have to. If you like any of the actors I named, if you like good comedy, if you like rom-coms, because it is essentially an action rom-com, and honestly, just if you like a good story, if you like a good movie, it's something you have to check out. Now, if you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you can get all of the stuff that's popping off on the channel. Like I mentioned, this video is dropping right now. For the remainder of the week, Tuesday through Friday, I'm going to put out 2 episodes at a time. I'll separate them out by like an hour or two. But I'm going to put 2 episodes at a time of Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. So this week will be Scott Pilgrim full of content. And then next week, I'm going to think about it this week. I'm thinking I will probably double back and do Loki, since I did all of those reviews during the strike, but I didn't get a chance to drop them again because of the strike, so that'll be there. Most importantly, if you are in the Los Angeles area, man, Christian Harloff and friends, we are doing the damn thing. We are going to be doing another comedy show. You don't want to miss it. Make sure you come out and join us. It's going to be an incredible time. I'm going to be doing a little bit more time. Roxy Strider is going to be hosting, and the whole crew, Christian, Kate, Brett, myself, Coy, we're all going to be up on stage cracking some jokes and whatnot, so you definitely want to come out and support us. It's 9:30, December 2nd. You can go to thechristianharloff.com in order to get your tickets. Other than that, you'll see me on Capes and Cows on Friday over on the Christian Harloff channel. You'll see me on Game Time with Roca on Tuesday. Got to talk about Cowboys stomping on his trash-ass Commanders, because Lord knows I knew we were going to win. I didn't realize we were going to abuse them. That's going to be a whole conversation, man. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, y'all. Make sure you stay safe, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.